أتحداك.
Yeah, my name is Matt Turner, and I'm a lead writer on Assassin's Creed 3.
All right. And so Corey May, the original writer, is still working with you.
He's overseeing my work, and he's very much involved. He's writing most of the main stuff as well.
All right. And so about the story. So how open is the story? Is it going to be linear, or are you going to go for a whole free roam, branch out script?
Well, it'd be Assassin's Creed narrative, it would be historical fact lends us to being more linear than because that's the way that it happened, kind of thing. We can't say this didn't happen if you make a choice, but we do want to present it in an open world context where the player can kind of decide when to push certain parts of the story forward. As far as I won't go any branching, the choices won't change the course of history, but for us it's interesting as a player to be able to decide when you want certain parts of the narrative to be revealed to you.
Okay. So we've seen the gameplay basically, and like the latest gameplay basically show a lot of like neat and kind of clean features. So how much? What's the timeline like? How much is already done?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, that is a couple months old. That demo that you saw. So when we finished that, we still had 10, 11 months of dev ahead of us, and that was a first draft. So we're getting close. We're getting close to our alpha. We're gonna leave ourselves a lot of time to really get in there and polish what you already saw. And what you saw wasn't polished, so you can imagine the impact that time's gonna have on the game in the long run. So we put ourselves in a really good position to create something exceptional, which has been our goal since the beginning.
And so, anything you can tell us about the real war? What's going to happen with Desmond? How related he is to Connor, and basically.
Well, as far as relation, I mean, all the assassins are in Desmond's bloodline. That's how it works. I mean, they're not necessarily assassins aren't related to each other necessarily. They can start from different parts of the bloodline. As far as Desmond's story, I can't give much details. I can say that we're going to see more of him than we ever had before. Spend more time than present we ever had before, which is going to push that story forward, which is something people can look forward to who are itching for some more exposition in terms of Desmond. Yeah, so it's.
All right. And so how hard is it to work in coordination with 8 studios? I mean, it's maybe the biggest.
It's a hard one for me to answer. I'm just a low-level writer. I don't. I'm not privy to all the production stuff. I know that our producers have their work cut out for them. It's a massive, massive project with a lot of people working on it, and it presents its challenges. But we have a very senior and talented production team that's, as far as I can tell, doing as good a job as you can in that respect. But I can't really get into the details of what makes it hard, because that's their kettle of fish.
So how close are you aiming to show the real American Revolution? Because we've seen George Washington, we saw Charles Lee, we saw Lafayette, and go for that anecdote about Lafayette if you can. So what other iconic figures of history are we going to see?
Well, we're going to see, like I said, those guys, Benjamin Franklin, and for us, I mean, I don't want to get, I can't get too deep into the actual characters we're going to be exploring. Just suffice to say that the time was wrought with interesting people doing interesting things. I mean, if you just think about the American Revolution, you can think of Thomas Jefferson, Paul Revere, Israel Putnam, which is John Adams, Sam Adams. There's an endless stream of guys, men and women, that were just really, really interesting people at a really interesting time. And for us, the challenge was picking which ones would intersect with our assassins, which is Templar's narrative. Which what we wanted to do is make sure that they came to us and we didn't go to them, so that our story was the focus of the whole thing. In terms of Marquis de Lafayette, he's a really interesting person that as we delve deeper into who he was and what he was doing, we find out that he was just basically a thrill seeker, a French aristocrat that wanted to get involved in revolution because for no reason just to be there. He was interested in it, so he got himself there under his own dollar and his own will. A wild trajectory where he ended up in Spain buying a ship dressed as a woman with his entourage, and they bought the cargo on the ship that was headed to the West Indies to redirect it to Philadelphia, just so he could get to North America and be involved in this event. And then he gets there, and the Continental Congress say, "We don't want you anymore." And he had to go and find Washington himself and say, "I'm here and I want to help." And Washington was impressed by him, and he ended up being a big factor in terms of military training for the people in the revolution. Just those kinds of stories, like that's one taste of the types of people that were involved in this event and the stuff that they did. And I think all that kind of stuff, mixing and matching and trying to find which ones fit together and how Connor can see them and be involved in them was also the challenge, but also the really rewarding part of writing the story in that period.
Yeah, he's kind of like the Da Vinci of like how Da Vinci was in the Ezio lineage.
Lafayette.
He kind of looks like that.
Oh, that's the thing is these people are so iconic in themselves. I wouldn't even liken them to somebody else from another game. Like they really stand on their own in the way that they behave and the stuff they do. I have never seen anybody else do something like that. Like even read about it. And it's the same with like Benjamin Franklin. He discovered the Gulf Stream for fun on a trip back from England. Like he was just coming back and he was bored, and you knew that the trip back took 3 weeks longer than the trip there, and he didn't understand why. So he just started doing experiments and got to Boston. He was like, "Yeah, Gulf Stream, here it is," and that was just for fun, right? If you think about the stuff that these men did on a day-to-day basis, is mind-boggling. And this is just kind of the kind of people that we get to interact with.
All right. So. What's the story with the rope dart? I mean, it's technically a Chinese weapon, and so how did it get to America?
I can't. That's part of the story, so I can't speak to how Connor gets his hands on the rope dart itself. For us, in terms of why we have that specific weapon, we had this thing called chain blade originally, which as we started playing with it and exploring what it could do, it was just a little bit too fantasy for Connor and the franchise, and we were playing with like. That doesn't taste great. So we decided to move away from it. We found the rope dart, which could serve a lot of the same functions, some of the same functions, but it was also rather than like you said, it's a real Chinese weapon. So for us, it was important that all of Connor's tools were things that actually existed at that time, if not in that period.
So Connor joined the assassin in 1770. So and that's basically roughly like 17 years after the American Revolution started.
Yeah.
So are we gonna see like this episode of his youth, like how he joined?
We get to
like a bit like Ezio.
We get to experience a huge portion of Connor's life, and that for us was an opportunity to really grow with the character as a player and see and be a part of what drives him and experience the things that shape his personality as an adult. I think it's something that's really good for the player to get in there and kind of develop that attachment to him, like they have to other characters like Ezio. They spent 3 games with that guy, and he's an amazing character, and it's a huge shoes to fill. Right? But our hope is that Connor's trajectory in the story is long enough and interesting enough that people are going to be engaged in the same role as they were with Ezio. So he joins the Assassins in 1770, and Revolution starts actually in 75. So we see him just before, during, and after all this stuff takes place. So we really get a really amazing arc of him.
And Ezio was basically all about the revenge, and Connor is now all about justice, like the helping the one that need help, nature, the love of nature, because he's a Mohawk, he's Native American. So why did you go for that whole change of pillar, basically?
Yeah, I know. For us, it was important that Connor stand alone as a new assassin with new motivations, with different ideas and different styles, and he needed to be someone the player wanted to play, but also had to have a whole new set of reason for being, right? And Ezio was about revenge, as you said, and so that went out the window. We couldn't have Connor about revenge too, because that would be the same thing. So we have these events that happen. The player will experience with Connor as a young boy, and those drive him to try and ensure that the things that happen to him and his people don't happen to others, and that he kind of tries to right what he sees that's wrong in the world. And that's very much in line with what the assassins do, right? So he's got this really different but equally interesting reason for doing what he does. And I think that was the important part of that it was different, and it was something new and fresh.
So, anything you want to share to our readers, or Middle Eastern readers, before we close out? Again?
I mean, I can't share much more than I've already shared with you, but Assassin's Creed 3, we've been on this game for over 2 years now. We're really excited about it. We think that we have something to offer that's going to be going to satisfy fans and bring in new people and be a whole new game for people to explore and get a whole new feeling for what it is to be an assassin. And I hope you guys enjoy the information as it comes.
Determine whether Americans are to be free men or slaves. Our cruel and unrelenting enemy leaves us only the choice of brave resistance or the most abject submission. We have, therefore, to resolve to conquer or die.